Hello, 6th level. Welcome to the last math lesson video of the school year. First of all, I will start off and apologize in advance. This is being done in one take as my editing software is not working. Primarily, the videos that I'm making disappear and don't show up in the editing software. So, there may be some mistakes. There may be some pauses. I may be like, instead of pausing where I should be, I'm searching for the pause button because it doesn't always work. Anyways, that's why it'll look the way it is because this is all in one go. So the last thing that we are going to do this school year is still from the pre-algebra book, section 1.8, and it talks about coordinate planes. Excuse me. Coordinate planes is something that, if you have been in Westside for the last 3 years, you've definitely used coordinate planes, and this is just a review. So I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. If you have not been at Westside for the past 3 years, you may or may not have had coordinate planes. If you haven't, and I go too fast, please send me an email, and I will have more information to share with you to help you along if this is your first encounter with coordinate planes. Excuse me again. My apologies. We're going to start off with some definitions. There will be some definitions that you'll need to be familiar with as we go on, and we talk about this. Now, I do plan on going through it pretty quickly because, again, this should be review. But take any notes that may help you to do the assignment that is in the pre-algebra book. First of all, since we're working with a coordinate plane, it would help to know what a coordinate plane is. Well, if you have taken geometry and you are familiar with the definition of a plane, it is basically a flat surface, and the coordinate part, coordinates are like addresses. It's the address of where you are on a particular surface. And usually a coordinate plane will look something like this. So if you were confused, now I'm sure you know, oh yeah, that's a coordinate plane. I'm going to be using a computer to show you some of the things that I'm going to talk about. I brought this handy dandy, very lovely laminated magnetic coordinate plane from school in preparation for thinking that I would be needing it. However, it is too heavy to stick to my whiteboard. It is too curly, and I can't get the curls out. It's heavy enough that my tape pulls it down, and I basically don't have a great way to use it. So, that's okay. I'll save it for classroom stuff. So, coordinate plane is an address, and it's made up of an axis, an x-axis, and a y-axis. Well, they're called x-axis and y-axis just because they are two different axes. What is an x-axis? Just think of it as a number line. It's a horizontal number line, the number line that we usually use in school. It goes from left to right. It's got 0 in the center. On the right side of the 0 are positive numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and could go on up, or it could be 100, 200, 300, 400. It depends on how it's needed, but usually it's it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now on the left side of the 0 are the negative versions. It's just a number line. That's all there is to it. X-axis is a number line. That's left to right. So what's the y-axis? Well, that's the second number line. And this number line is vertical. Think about our balloons and weights number line. It's the same thing. 0 is in the center. And if you go up, it's positive numbers. If you go down, it's negative numbers. And these two overlap to form a plus sign. Here is your horizontal number line, so that is the x-axis, and the y-axis is the vertical number line. It goes up and down. The easy way to think about which is first. X comes before Y in the alphabet, so the x-axis comes before the y-axis. Now, at the point where they mix, here's our number line, negatives, 0, positives. Negatives up to 0, positives. This point right here, where the two lines intersect, they connect at the zeros. That's also called the origin or point of origin. You could hear it either way. That's just basically meaning those are where the zeros are on both number lines. Now, because it forms a plus sign, we end up with different sections. There are 4 different quadrants. The quadrant is the name of a section. So the most popular quadrant is this. This is the area where there's positive numbers and positive numbers. So even if you're not working with anything negative, you're not working with anything negative, you really don't need these over here. So positive numbers, you may just see quadrant 1. And if you look in your instructions in your book, a scatter graph, which will be talked about a little bit later, is using only quadrant 1 because the scatter graphs that they'll be having you work with are only positive numbers. The numbering system, you would think, well, is this quadrant 1? It comes first. No, this is quadrant 1, and it's usually written in Roman numeral 1 because it's the most popular. It's the one that's used the most. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It starts with the one that's in the positive area because it's the one that's used the most. So, and I'll get back to some more information on that in just a moment. The next thing that we need to talk about is an ordered pair. An ordered pair looks like it's in parentheses, and it's an address. Now this is talking about the address of a point, and this point, and that's the next vocabulary term, a plot point or a point is a dot, a point in space that happens to be here. Now, there could be a whole bunch of points. so I need to name my point, and my point is named A. Very original, yes. So this says A lives at -5, 2. The numbers in parentheses followed by with a comma in between. The first number is always the x-axis. X comes before y, so this is the address on the x-axis. This is the coordinate or address on the y-axis. X, Y. X is always first, Y is always second. Now, for those of you who had me in 4th level, Carner Blue, you heard I talked about Superman and how Superman can run before he can fly. Yeah, I know. He's Superman. He can do what he wants. But for our explanation, Superman needs to run on the x-axis before he can leap into the air and fly up or fly down. So he runs before he flies, horizontal before vertical, x-axis before y-axis. So this tells me on the x-axis I have to go to -5. I start at 0, bloop, 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 down to -5. On the y-axis, I have to go to +2. Well, this is +2, so I'm right here, and I go up 1, up 2. I put a plot point. Here's my point. And I'm saying this spot on this graph is what I am calling point A. Okay, pretty cool. Easy enough. As you can see, I have added another plot point. Now this plot point I have named B. It has to be different from A. I can't name it A because A is already here. This is where A lives. So A can't live in 2 different places at the same time. We have not developed the technology to exist in 2 locations at once. So if I have a different point, it has to be named something different. So in the first one, I showed you how to find the coordinates, or how to plot a point. So if I need to read a point and find out, well, where is B? I have B, but I need to know its address. Remember, run before you fly. X comes before Y. Whatever works out, we need to go left to right first. Well, my point's not over here. It's over on the positive side. And it's over here at +5. So we run to +5. My first coordinate is going to be 5. Now I'm flying down. Superman ran, now he can fly. He's flying down. Or Y comes after X, so I need to come down. I sink down to this point, which is down to -5 on the y-axis. So since this is -5, my second address is -5. And now I have an ordered pair. The x-coordinate, the y-coordinate. 5, -5, 5, -5. This puts me in what quadrant? Name the quadrant. Quadrant 4. So the different quadrants. If my ordered pair is a positive positive, I'm going to run to the positive side and fly to the positive side. Positive positives are always in quadrant 1. If I have a negative positive is going to be in quadrant 2. A negative negative is going to bring me into quadrant 3. A positive negative will put me in quadrant 4. So that particular combination, I don't know that you need to write that in your notes, but that is something, well, you will need to figure out what quadrant you are in some of your work that you'll be doing. So that's an easy way to figure it out. Positive positive, negative positive, negative negative, positive negative. The first number being the x-axis, the second number being the y-axis. Now, you could have something that is on the line. It's not actually in a quadrant. If I have 2, 0, I run 2, but I don't fly anywhere, my point is right here on the line. If my point is on the line, it would look like this, and it would have 2, 0 as the ordered pair for plot point C. I ran 2, I flew nowhere, so I am on the x-axis. I am at 2, 0. So, using that logic, tell me what this plot point is. Go ahead, take a moment. Tell me the quadrant, or sorry, tell me the ordered pair for plot point D. I mean, literally, say it out loud. Some of you have, not everybody. Come on, you think I can't hear you? Talk to me, guys. What is this quadrant? What is this plot point? All right. Well, thank you for those who actually answered. For those of you who didn't, and I know who you are, the answer is if we start to run left or right, but we actually didn't run anywhere, our x address is 0. We'll start off with a 0. So I didn't go anywhere on my x or horizontal number line, but I flew straight down. I dropped down to -3. So the second address is -3. So D is located at 0, -3. If you follow that same pattern, I can't really make this tough. I can't really make it tricky, except for the fact that you could have something that's 3.5. Let's say we ran to -3.5 and we flew down to -5.5. And that point would be right here. Not 5.5, that'd be right here. That'd be in the center. That'd be in the total center of this square. Right there. That's -3.5, -5.5. Because we went down to -3.5, and we dropped down to -5, and another half. So that would be right there in the middle. Voila. E. -3.5, -5.5. And that's how it would be written. Negative 3.5, comma, negative 5.5. And what quadrant is that in? A negative address puts you in quadrant 1, 2, 3. Quadrant 3. Roman numeral 3 is usually how you will see it. When you're in a middle school or in a high school, using a ruler is pretty much a must for connecting the dots. Now, if you need to connect the dots, freehand won't cut it in higher level grades, because there is, while this seems simple, and it is, again, it's a foundation, it's a stepping stone for more complex work. More complex work that would be found in algebra. You will do more graphing in your schooling, and you will need to use a ruler for a more precise line connection, because you may have to, well, I'm not going to get into how you would use it, because that's a totally different lesson. But you could be asked to connect the dots. A, with a ruler, may be connected to B, connected to C, connected to D, connected to E. Now, chances are that's not exactly the pattern it would use. But again, I'll save that concept for future teachers. What I can tell you is, if you freehand any connecting lines that you may be asked to do, you'll probably have a facial expression from your teacher like this. And trust me, that is not a facial expression you want to see. This is this is like what a scatter plot may look like. Remember I said earlier, a scatter plot takes place in quadrant 1. So you would only have this part of the number line. I don't have my points labeled. It's a visual graph. It's a visual representation of data. And this is what it looks like. So I have something at 2, 3, 2.5, 4, 3, 2, 3.5, 1, 4, 6. That happens to be the addresses or coordinates of my scatter graph. So if it asks you to make your own scatter graph, it'll look something like that. Yep, this is what I'm talking about. Can't find the pause button.